Can't someone be a shit their whole life and try to repair the damage? I think people want to hear that. It's an interesting and fair question raised by Royal Tenenbaum in the Royal Tenenbaums. Today's review, this is an on-demand review. This request comes from LinuxMate, good friend of the channel. Thank you very much for your recommendation, LinuxMate. This is actually one of my favorite movies. I love it. The very first Wes Anderson movie I saw, actually, so it introduced me to his style, which is quite a distinct style, needless to say. And it has to be still one of my favorite performances from Gene Hackman, and a man with several great performances on his resume. I think that's saying a lot. This is actually the last movie he did before retiring. Welcome in Mooseport. It never happened. So let's say this is where he left us. A great cast overall. Great story. I mean, basically, it is about the Tenenbaum family. Husband and wife divorced, but they have the three kids. Three kids are child prodigies. They're geniuses. They're extremely talented, as they show us in kind of the opening chapter of the film. Or I guess you could say that the prologue of this imaginary novel that's taking place. And that's what's kind of cool about this DVD set. This is a Criterion DVD release, and it looks like a book, kind of, which is, I think, neat. You don't see too much like that these days. But anyway, they show us these children growing up to be these wonder kids, these prodigies, and then essentially they grow up into mediocre adults with many failures and betrayals and bad things happening all around, and they're damaged children. And part of that, you're left to wonder, is this because of Royal Tenenbaum? He asked that question, of course. Can you be a shit your whole life and try to make up for it? I guess it depends on how much of a shit the person is. As we can see very clearly in those opening scenes, he is kind of a shit. I think all you need to know about the character is when he shoots his own son playing a BB gun game. He's like, "You're on my team. There are no teams. Haha!" Shoots him with the, well, I guess a BB gun doesn't make that noise, but you know what I mean. Lodges it in between his knuckles. Another part, his daughter Margot, she's adopted. He never hesitates to bring that point up when he's introduced to him. This is my daughter Margot. She's adopted. She becomes a playwright. She's in her early days. She's writing these early plays, and we see a little bit of this play. They're all dressed up as animals, whatever. So what did you think, Dad? It's like, it wasn't really that believable. It's like, well, what do you mean? It was just a bunch of kids. I mean, running around. It was silly. It was like, it's just one man's opinion. Okay, so he doesn't sugarcoat things. So a little bit of that's all like that. But anyway, the mother focuses on trying to raise them the best she can, with his involvement being somewhat minimal in their lives. And yeah, as they grow, they become sort of damaged people. I mean, each of these characters, we have the three children played by Ben Stiller, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Luke Wilson, all great in their roles. Richie is Luke Wilson. He's failed tennis pro. Margot is a playwright who doesn't really get too many good reviews and is kind of just stuck in the bathroom all day, smoking in secret. And Chaz, played by Ben Stiller, he's recently widowed. His wife was in a plane accident with the kids. The kids survived, and the dog survived as well. So he's constantly worried about their well-being, to a point of obsession, to a point of, let's pack up the bags and go to Mom's house and maybe we'll be safe there. Oh my God, I have a problem. And basically, yeah, he does. So, I mean, really, the point of the plot that gets them all together is mainly, I guess, Royal, because he's finally kind of charmed his last way out of a debt, and he's been living in a hotel for 22 years. Finally, they're like, your card's not going through. We can't bill you no more. You got to get out of here. And he's like, okay, whatever. And he finds out that his wife, Angelica Houston, is going to marry an accountant, of all people, played by Danny Glover, who's great in his role as well. And yeah, so he cooks up this kind of scheme to pretend that he's dying and hopefully get close to the kids in the process, close to the family, win his wife back, and doesn't help to have a place to sleep too, I guess. So even like when his somewhat good motives to reconnect with the family are at play, you kind of question them, and the selfishness behind it. So that's what kind of gets things rolling in the plot, and we learn a lot about the characters and their lives, and the secrets that they hold. And what's interesting about this movie is, again, from like it is an interesting choice. I'd say that it's a kind of presented as this book, which is not a book, because a lot of the characters in the film have written works. Like Margot has her plays, and uh, we see even Danny Glover's character. Henry or Herman Sherman, whatever. Danny Glover, he has a book on accounting and all that. So we always see the characters kind of reading other characters' books, and Eli Cash, played by uh, the other Wilson brother, Owen Wilson. Funnily enough, they don't play brothers in the movie, which is funny. He plays a best friend who kind of is envious of the Tenenbaum family. I always wanted to be a Tenenbaum. Wow. That's kind of his, I don't know, coveting of the family. He writes books too. So they're all kind of like reading each other's books, like almost like in an attempt to understand each other is basically kind of the point I'm trying to make. So that's kind of interesting, of like a running gag, I guess. Movie, of course, being a Wes Anderson film, quite a precocious style to it. I mean, there's always something going on in the frame in a Wes Anderson movie, which is delightful. And I can understand, how some people say, oh, this is a little too much, oh, he has like little, things in the background, whatever. This one, I think it works splendidly. Um, Always something interesting in the frame. Every single kind of shot, we see like, a piece of production that reflects the characters in some way, their personalities, their minds, and I think the attention to details is in part what makes the movie so charming. The writing by Anderson and Owen Wilson, actually, who co-wrote the film, I think is excellent. It really balances comedy and drama really well, because you can't really call it one or the other, I'd say. As a comedy, it's a little bit light in its comedy. It's not like big guffaws kind of last. There's very funny moments here and there, particularly with Royal Tenenbaum. Like obviously, like one of the best scenes in the movie, probably my favorite scene. When he takes Chaz's kids out. He wants to get to know the grandkids. Even then, like, he's still such a shit. He's like, sorry to hear about your mother. She's a very fine looking lady. Okay, but anyway, he takes them out. They're shoplifting. They're jay running, if that's a thing, jaywalking, but running. Across a busy street, throwing water balloons at cars. They're going to dog fights, and they're riding on the back of a garbage truck. So a lot of fun for the kids. Let's teach them how to have a little bit of fun, a little bit of lust for life, joie de vivre, I guess. So that's kind of the funny portions of the movies, and a portion of the movie, and Hackman is excellent and very funny. But of course, there are very dramatic portions to this plot. There's kind of like a love triangle, or even like a love quadrangle, a square, between uh, Richie and Margot. She's adopted, so they're both kind of in love with each other, but don't really know what to do about it, and don't really want to say anything directly to each other, and they kind of talk to other people. But then there's Margot's husband, played by Bill Murray, who's great, like as if Bill Murray's not going to be great in a movie, right? And Eli Cash. So there's a whole kind of thing going on there, and I think one of the important things about that is that the movie does not play, at least not most of that, for laughs. It does, I think, tug at the drama of it, and I think it gets effective reactions. So certain scenes really pay off, since we know it's not supposed to be comedic. It's supposed to be a very tricky situation for these characters and their romantic endeavors. So it's very tricky and a slippery slope. But I think Anderson and Wilson's screenplay really achieves bringing the proper tone to that portion of the film, and having a lot of fun with Royal and his hijinks, and his little schemes, because you think it's going to be one thing, then it kind of turns into another thing. So it doesn't kind of work out the way you might expect, because this is a little bit different type of movie. It's a Wes Anderson movie, a little bit quirky, if you want to say that. I think if there's like one word to describe, Wes Anderson movies besides, like hipster or whatever, this is hipster before hipster, I guess. But they're quirky. They're quirky movies. So I think that it's a great achievement in that respect, and it's a wonderful looking movie. Again, the attention to detail is exquisite. It really is, and the performances are just unbeatable in my opinion. Again, Gene Hackman, so great, and he's on another level from everyone here. Like I don't want to diminish anybody's work in the film, but you kind of hear like now later, all these years later, this movie was released in 2001. But you're hearing now stories of how Gene Hackman was kind of an asshole during filming, and it's so strange to think about that because like we have Bill Murray in the movie, and he's notorious for being so difficult to work with, but somehow he just found this great connection and I don't know mesh with Wes Anderson and his style and his tone. And I think he'll always kind of have this loyalty to him for really bringing out his dramatic chops in Rushmore, which was kind of this, I don't know, renaissance, the beginning of this renaissance in Bill Murray's career. Where before that he was kind of doing, I don't know, like, larger than life. He's running around with an elephant. Anyway, you think, okay, so he gets along with Bill Murray. He must be this great guy. Meanwhile, Gene Hackman's like, okay, you think you're difficult? Hold my beer. I'm going to be a horrible shit to everyone on this set. Anyway, that's just hearsay and conjecture, neither here nor there. And you kind of think, well, maybe because Royal Tenenbaum is a shit and an outsider, that's kind of what Gene Hackman is kind of going for here. This real method. Maybe we'd like to believe that, but I don't know. So what I think is kind of whatever Wes Anderson's vision of this movie had been, or his vision of the character of Royal Tenenbaum may have differed, possibly, from what he originally wanted. But that's why I think film is such this collaborative thing, because I mean, essentially Hackman, who at that time he had one foot in retirement as it was, and as far as I can recall, the movie was written specifically with him in mind, which is a gamble, right? But here he goes. He does the movie, but on his own terms, I suppose. So I mean, he's on another level, and I don't want to diminish anyone else's work here, but I mean, it's there on the screen. He brightens up the movie every single scene he's in. How he wasn't nominated for an Oscar for this is beyond me. He's brilliant, but what can you do? I do think it, as I mentioned previously, it stands as absolutely one of his best. Absolutely one of his best. I love it. I love the movie. I don't think I'll go into spoilers with this review, but it's just a wonderful, wonderful film. It's funny. It's touching. It brings a lot of great out of the actors in particular, who, when you think about kind of who's in it, we have someone like Ben Stiller, more of a comedic actor. Here he's doing something a little bit more dramatic. Even the Wilson brothers, you don't necessarily equate them to this type of movie, even with like Bottle Rocket. But again, Bill Murray once again kind of doing what he's been doing in the Wes Anderson films and ever since Rushmore. Danny Glover gets a great performance out of him. Angelica Houston is brilliant. Gwyneth Paltrow, maybe one of her best performances too, because I mean, this is unlike anything she's ever done. In particular, I think Margot is a great character. Just this, damaged individual who's very sullen, and you don't. The first person you think of isn't Gwyneth Paltrow to play that kind of role. So I think she did fantastic work there. And the MVP of the movie is Pagoda. I'm sorry, I don't know the actor's name, but he's so great, playing Royal's kind of buddy who kind of tags along with him on his adventures and things like that. Just great, fantastic movie. I love it. One of my favorites. So I just finished rewatching it recently. Well, actually, literally, just a few minutes ago, I finished watching it for to have it fresh in my mind for this review. I think it's great. One of Wes Anderson's absolute best. Highly recommended. So, Royal Tenenbaums, check it out. Thank you, Lennox Mate, for your recommendation of this on-demand review. If you have a movie you'd like me to review, talk about, whatever, comment below. Let me know. Try to get to them as much as I can. But until next time, be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit Derek237.com. And until next time, I'll see you later.